White City is an estate built before the last war, and I think its intention was to create a kind of a small garden city, we call them in Britain. I was driving through the area quite a lot. I found a short way home, and at first I was struck by the fact that all the street names were connected with the British Empire. And I'd been working on an idea which was based on my roots as a post-war child and the way it related to the decline of the British Empire. So it wasn't so much because it was where I was brought up. I was brought up very near there. White City was a kind of a legendary place to me as a kid. I suppose it was one of the first big council estates built in the UK, and it's gone through various periods of decline, really. It's gone downwards. But it's a very electric and alive place. It's got a big immigrant community, a lot of Irish, a lot of Caribbeans, mixed in with the obviously indigenous community. And right now, at this minute, there's a big influx of gypsies and travellers. It's bordered on one side by what used to be the White City Stadium, on another side by a great big highway, and it's defined by four walls, so it's very much like a fortress. I talked to the man who runs the cafe that I used to occasionally use. It's been there for about 30 years in various locations. It's in a new building now. His mother and father used to run it before him. And I said to him, I asked him in what way has the White City changed? And he said, oh, it's gone right downhill, you know. And then his father chipped in and he said, yeah, in the good old days, he said, I used to walk around the estate trying to find scraps of food in the gutter. You know, it's people tend to look back at tremendous adversity, and once it's cast into the past, they feel in some way that it's glamorous or romantic. The White City today is thriving, full of kids. We were shooting a lot very early in the morning, and as soon as the kids come out on the street, you know, the place is alive. It's a living place. I started thinking about this particular film last May 1984. And the original idea was simply going to be 24 hours in the life of somebody who spends a day literally wandering through that area. And by the end of the summer, around August, September, I'd completed a draft script of my own and about 6 songs. And in November, I started recording.
Play it back off the 24. Yes.
The night school comes alive, every minute it gets better. Got to learn to enjoy the night, follow letter by letter. Act must clean up, the past is all forgiven. Better get teamed up, alone you just can't live. Check out your best stuff, look good and you'll feel right. Don't get messed up, stand up to your full fight at the night school. Nocturnal education, if you're getting beaten down, no one will give a damn. Forget the elite in town, you know where your life began. Then when you criticize, believe in yourself again. Hide from the hypnotized, they transmit surely in the night school. Nocturnal education, I am the one you're crying. The generous thrown away the key. Their daily grind, they think you to me. I'm teaching down at night school. Open the phobia. That's what we romance for at the night school. Stay in society, keep hating the raps. Tend to sobriety in the tender traps. You heard of the raging moon, you were under its spell. Now it's vanished like a burst balloon, and listen out for the bell. Night school. Nocturnal education. Night school. Nocturnal education. We are the one tonight. Something only the dead. Why? You ain't been listening to a word I've said. Yeah! At the night school, yeah. Teaching down a night school. Ooh, yeah. I'm teaching down a night school. Taking classes down a night school. Teaching down a night school. Deep in the night, deep in the night. Night school. Ooh, yeah!
What was interesting for me, something that I was determined to do, was to make sure that whatever happened to the story, whatever happened to the script, that the music would be allowed to evolve with that. And in fact, it's worked out very well. When I first met our director last year, we stripped away quite a lot. We stripped away a lot of the material, a lot of the music, which we felt was superfluous. And the whole thing did evolve, you know, small steps. I'd do a bit of recording, and then we together would do a bit of writing for the screenplay. We were inching forward step by step. I've learned, working with Richard, the director, that he has a role very similar to a record producer for me. I need I need a record producer because I need somebody to bounce performances off. The producer in a studio has a tremendous technical role, but he also is the public. He has to pretend to be the public. We have to attempt to move forward together. It's very similar to recording, where what you're attempting to achieve is it's a catalysm, really. The music in White City is an extension of everything that I've done before. It follows on. The story is a follow-on from Quadrophenia to some way. You know, Jim might be Jimmy from Quadrophenia 20 years on. It's set in the present day with flashbacks to about 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago. The film is not meant to be a period piece in any sense. The story is what's important, the story of the relationships and the way in which these two people work out their relationship. In the film, I play very much myself, really. Somebody based on somebody of my age, with my accomplishments. Somebody who has travelled around and come back to try and find, I suppose, some roots. And is surprised, I think, as I was surprised when I did go back and did my recceing, you know, went round and talked to people, to find that there's a remarkable degree of optimism, particularly among the very young. The two main characters, Jim and Alice, are younger than me a little bit. My generation, I was born practically the day the war ended. I think I was brainwashed, like so many people my age, into believing that success was tied up with the pursuit of heroism. And that seems to be very much what the first wave of 60s rock and roll musicians perpetuated. And when I went to look at the kind of story that I wanted to tell, I wanted to talk about people that were breaking those traditions. People that hadn't suffered, if you like, from the same kind of moors that I had. And Jim and Alice are a couple who, Jim, for example, hasn't done what I've done. He hasn't felt the need to escape. He hasn't felt the need to run off and travel the world. He hasn't felt the need to make lots of money. He's not been driven in that same way. He's quite happy to live on the estate and his life completely established in the microcosm that it represents. And she is one of the new breed of women. She thinks for herself, she acts for herself, she doesn't accept the old role. She's a feminist, she's active in the community on her own terms. And I feel that when I look at people maybe 5 or 10 years younger than me, I wouldn't say I'm jealous of them, but I do admire the way that they've started to break with the old traditions, which I do feel very embedded in me. You know, I still feel the best thing that could have happened to me was that I'd have been called up, put in the army and sent out to some battlefield. I mean, people might think that that's sick, but I think I was brought up to do that, trained to do that, and I respected people that did that. My father did it, my grandfather did it, and I had to do it in rock and roll.